Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 notorious computer hackers. To some people, hackers are modern-day Robin Hoods or Guy Fawkeses. They're fighting a moral battle against people and systems that they feel are oppressors. On the other hand, there are people who simply view hackers as vandals and criminals. One group you might notice is missing from this list is Anonymous, and that is because their membership is too loose and fluid to be included. One of the few tenets of Anonymous is that it can be anyone. According to a former member, it's an amorphous group of people that can include anyone who wants to use the brand to put forth their cause. So while they are notorious hackers, it's more of a movement than a cohesive group, so we decided to omit it. Number 10. Marcel, Lehel, Lazar. One of the biggest issues for American voters in the 2016 election was the fact that Hillary Clinton used a private email server instead of a government one when she was Secretary of State. One of the people who supposedly helped expose that server was Romanian cab driver Marcel Lehel Lazar, who went under the username Guccifer. Unlike a lot of other people on this list, Lazar was not trained in computers. Instead, he apparently read the Wikipedia page of a person he wanted to hack and tried to figure out their passwords. By using this system between 2012 and 2014, Lazar managed to hack the email accounts of over 100 people. Many of them were American celebrities, politicians, and business people. One of his most infamous hacks was breaking into former President George W. Bush's family email and then posting some of Bush's self-portrait paintings in 2013. In May of 2014, Lazar was extradited to the United States and he pleaded guilty to aggravated identity theft and unauthorized access to a protected computer. He was sentenced to 52 months in prison in September of 2016. Number 9. Chad Davis. In the spring of 1999, the FBI was investigating a group of hackers called Global Hell, who had vandalized the White House's webpage. Their investigation led them to the apartment of 19-year-old Chad Davis, who lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The FBI suspected Davis of being one of the founders of Global Hell, who went under the username MindPhaser. They searched his apartment and took his laptop. However, they didn't find much. The only thing they could do was fine him $165 for being underage and having a beer in his fridge. Most people would have considered themselves lucky to have avoided the clutches of the FBI, but Davis was not one of those people. Just a few weeks later, on June the 28th, Davis hacked the US Army's homepage and posted the message, "Global Hell is alive, Global Hell will not die." Davis was arrested shortly after. It's believed that when Davis was arrested, Global Hell had hacked into 17 corporate and personal websites. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison and fined $8,054. He was also forbidden from using a computer after his release. Number 8. Herbert Zinn. In 1987, Herbert Zinn was a 17-year-old high school dropout. Instead of going to school, Zinn spent a lot of time using his computer in his Chicago home. During this time, Zinn managed to hack into AT&T, NATO, and the Department of Defense. When Zinn hacked AT&T, he supposedly stole an artificial intelligence program that hadn't been released, which was worth about $1 million. While Zinn may have been a good hacker, he was by no means a criminal mastermind. He was caught after he bragged about the hacks on message boards under the name Shadowhawk, and on one of the postings he left his phone number. Smooth. Zinn was sentenced to 9 months in prison and fined $10,000. Number 7. Gary McKinnon. Gary McKinnon was born in Glasgow in 1966 and got his first computer when he was 14. When McKinnon was 17, he dropped out of school to be a hairdresser. However, he hadn't lost his love for computers, and in the 1990s he got his qualifications in computing. Between February 2001 and March of 2002, McKinnon hacked into 97 United States military and NASA computers. Sometimes he'd leave messages on their websites saying, "Your security is crap." McKinnon was arrested in his apartment in England in March of 2002. The police didn't have a hard time tracking him down because McKinnon didn't cover his tracks properly. In an interview with the BBC, McKinnon said, "I almost wanted to be caught because it was ruining me. I had this classic thing of wanting to be caught so there'd be an end to it." The American government said that in the wake of the September 11 attacks, McKinnon altered or deleted files which shut down their systems. McKinnon denied this and said he was just looking at files and didn't do any real damage. For over 10 years, the American government tried to get McKinnon extradited, but it was ultimately blocked. In 2012, the Crown Prosecution Service chose not to pursue any charges against McKinnon. As for why he did it, McKinnon said that he wanted to find out if the US government knew about UFOs, alien and free energy, and were just keeping it all a secret. He thought that it was his moral obligation to expose the truth. McKinnon claims he did see some evidence of UFOs, like recorded accounts of people seeing them, and he said he possibly saw a picture of a UFO, but nothing definitive. Number 6. Lizard Squad. On Christmas Eve 2014, both the Xbox Live and PlayStation Network (PSN) crashed, and each one was still down on Christmas Day when many people woke up to a new system under the tree. In total, up to 160 million people were affected. The crash was the result of a hack by a group called Lizard Squad, which crashed the networks with a distributed denial of service (DDoS) hack. A DDoS hack is when a system is flooded with traffic from a botnet, which is like a horde of zombie computers being controlled by a user or a group of users, and then they overload the network, which causes it to crash. In order to get the attack to stop, internet entrepreneur Kim.com, no, that's not his real name, offered Lizard Squad members 3,000 vouchers to his encrypted cloud storage system called Mega. They agreed, and the systems went back online shortly afterward. When asked why they did it, a member of the Lizard Squad, who identified himself only as Ryan, said that Microsoft and Sony make billions of dollars, but thought they kept too much of it for themselves and didn't put enough money into security, so they did it to raise awareness. They said they felt bad that gamers couldn't get online, but didn't feel bad that Microsoft and Sony lost money due to their systems being down. 4 members of the group have been identified and charged, but none of them faced jail time, even though some of them were convicted on 50,700 counts of instances of aggravated computer break-ins. Number 5. LulzSec. The first big target of LulzSec, which means lulz or laugh security, was Fox.com. After hacking them, they managed to steal the personal data of 75,000 X Factor contestants. They said they did it because a talking head on Fox News called the rapper-actor Common vile. After Fox.com, LulzSec hacked into PBS and planted a fake news story saying that Tupac Shakur and Christopher Notorious B.I.G. Wallace were still alive and in New Zealand. This was followed by a hack into Sony's PlayStation network, which brought it down for a few days, and then they stole the data of 24.6 million people. The group's downfall was that they got cocky and took down an FBI-affiliated site for a few hours. This caught the FBI's attention, naturally, and just 4 days later, on June the 7th, the group's leader, Cebu, logged into an anonymous chat forum without using a Tor system, which anonymizes data connections. A short time later, the FBI knocked on the door of Hector Xavier Monsegur, a freelance programmer who lived in Manhattan. The FBI gave him a choice. He could go to jail or he could give up the rest of the group. He said that he had just gotten parental custody of his 2 nieces, so he chose to help the FBI. The 4 other hackers lived in England and they were all arrested by September. None of the hackers knew each other in real life. The 4 hackers were sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, while Monsegur spent 7 months in prison. Number 4. Astra. Most of the hackers on this list were destructive and/or greedy. However, where we start to get into James Bond-type villains is Astra, an unidentified Greek hacker who was 58 when he was arrested in 2008 after being wanted for 5 years. Astra, who was a mathematician and an experienced hacker, broke into the computer network of French defense contractor Dassault Group. For over 5 years, he stole weapon technology and aircraft data. He then sold that information to 250 different people in Brazil, France, Germany, Italy, South Africa, and some countries in the Middle East that weren't identified. Dassault said that the hacks led to $360 million in damages and that Astra sold the secrets for $1,000 a batch. He was convicted and given a 6-year prison sentence. Number 3. The Guardians of Peace. The most devastating cyber attack on an American corporation was the Sony Pictures hack, which happened on November the 24th, 2012. They leaked the staff's personal data, private emails, and unreleased movies. The hack was performed by a group called Guardians of the Peace, GOP, and they demanded that Sony pull their upcoming movie, The Interview, which is about a TV show host and his producer trying to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. If Sony didn't pull the movie, there would be a terrorist attack. Theater owners around America decided not to screen the movie, and the day after the hack, Sony cancelled the theatrical run of The Interview. The FBI concluded that the North Koreans were responsible for the attack, but North Korea has always denied it. Many hackers and cybersecurity experts actually believe North Korea because they don't think the nation was capable of committing a hack of that nature. Adding to the confusion, on December the 20th, 2014, the GOP supposedly posted a message on Pastebin mocking the FBI. It read, "By GOP. The result of investigation by FBI is so excellent that you might have seen what we were doing with your own eyes. We congratulate you success. FBI is the best in the world. You will find the gift for FBI at the following address." Then there was a link to a YouTube video called "You Are an Idiot." The video starts off with some Japanese words before smiley faces appear on the screen. This is followed by techno music and the rest of the video saying "You're an idiot" over and over again. So the question still remains, if the GOP aren't North Koreans, then who are they? Number 2. Albert Gonzalez. In 2003, Albert Gonzalez was arrested for being the administrator of an underground computer network called shadowcrew.com. The network was 4,000 members strong, and people swapped illegal information on it like credit card numbers. Instead of taking responsibility for what he did and do his time, Gonzalez became a paid informant for the Secret Service. He set up a sting operation where he convinced hackers from shadowcrew.com to come to a chat room that was monitored by the Secret Service. This led to 28 arrests. After the sting, Gonzalez moved to Miami, and while making $75,000 as an informant, he started up his own criminal ring called Operation Get Rich or Die Trying. During the operation, Gonzalez and his ring of hackers stole 140 million credit card numbers from OfficeMax, TJX, Boston Market, Barnes & Noble, Sports Authority, Forever 21, DSW, and Dave & Buster's. The Secret Service, who had no idea that Gonzalez was running his own criminal network while also a paid informant, were doing a separate investigation and ended up arresting a man named Maxim Yastremski. He was selling stolen credit cards in Turkey. On his computer, they found a chat log with a mysterious American hacker who went under the username 2016 79996. This eventually led back to Gonzalez, and he was arrested. Gonzalez said in court that it was never about the money, but the Secret Service found chat records of him bragging that he planned to score $15 million and then retire and live on a yacht. Instead, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison in March of 2010. Number 1. Evgeniy Mikhailovich Bogachev. On October the 11th, 2006, at 2:24 a.m., a user by the name of Fleemy posted a message on the online forum techsupportguy.com asking for someone to take a look at some mysterious code that he found on his sister's computer. As it turns out, it was vicious malware that logged keystrokes, but ran so seamlessly that users didn't see a slowdown on their system. It was so effective that it stole more passwords in a few hours than most malware does in weeks. It was also unique because it developed ways to hide itself from things like antivirus programs. Eventually, enough computers were affected that it created a botnet. Since the virus ran virtually undetected, security experts have no idea how many computers were infected. Things only got worse in June of 2007 when Apple launched the iPhone. That's when people started getting emails offering free iPhone wallpapers, but of course it was actually a new variation of the Zeus virus. This version was even worse than the original because it allowed hackers to log into commercial banks and transfer large sums of money without raising an alarm. In 2010, 4 years after the malware was first detected, $100 million had been stolen using Zeus. It's estimated that hundreds of millions have been stolen in total, and it has caused billions of dollars in damage. As of 2015, it was still being used to infect computers. What made the author of Zeus unique is that he didn't do the hacking. Instead, he used a middleman to sell the malware to third parties like criminal syndicates, and they would do the hacking. Interestingly, the hacker also offered 24/7 tech support. At the time, the alias of the author of Zeus kept changing. Some of his names included A to Z, Monster, Slavic, Polling Soon, Umbro, and Lucky1235. His real identity was only made public in June of 2014 when the FBI announced they were looking for Russian-born Evgeniy Mikhailovich Bogachev, who was 34 years old at the time of this posting. He wasn't identified because of a mistake he made in his coding, though. Instead, a person who knew him gave him up. There is currently a $3 million reward from the FBI for information that leads to his arrest and conviction. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that like button below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right, a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.